Hey guys, welcome to the Cobra Den. This is a new podcast. My name's Anthony,
Nation Gibrick over here.
and what we cover is typically MMA, but we also cover comic books, movies, anime.
We're a jack of trades, all kind of podcast. We cover anything from nutrition. We're gonna have guests on in the future, so stay tuned for all the randomness and fun that we're gonna have in store for you guys.
So tonight we are going to talk about UFC Fight Night 30 and just some other fun ditties.
Yes, I didn't even know that they had a number associated with the UFC fight nights anymore, but that's interesting. I didn't even realize.
Yeah,
that,
it's they're already past UFC 200 and they're like 230s now or something like that. But their fight nights are very low number, which is funny why they still even bother to.
It's
number
ridiculous
them.
at this point how they even are keeping track, because I feel like we're just gonna get past a point where it's like 300 is gonna come up soon. I remember UFC 200 was almost like
last year.
It seems like it was last year, but anyway, that's for another note of how many fights there are in a month. But anyway, it was a good card. We could start off with the simple fact that Jose Aldo's back on a win streak. We got Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who's also back in the win column, and we also got Dustin Poirier beating Eddie Alvarez. The diamond.
He's shining bright right now.
He did shine bright, very
See,
bright.
the thing with Diamond is I honestly did not like him as a fighter when he was fighting Conor. Now, I don't know if it was because I was a big Conor fan. I am still a big Conor fan. But I don't know if it was just that animosity, and I was like, fuck this Diamond guy. Like, he just seemed like a douchebag. But ever since he grew his hair back, he seems like such a chill and cool dude. And every time he fights, I'm like, I want you to win.
Well, you know what I think it was, too, is that you feel for the guy because he was the first guy to get the initial impact of Conor on his tour to rising stardom, basically. Because you remember, like, it was like Conor wasn't that popular yet, but, like, he had a couple of, like, side video projects that he was working with. I think it was, like, Fightland or something like that. And I remember seeing the video. I was like, oh, wow, this guy's really cool, talking about movement, things like that. And then I remember he got this really strong beef with Dustin Poirier, and I remember just watching the Embedded series, and that's what I was like. That was the first Embedded series. Like, wow, this is pretty intense. Watching them talk shit to each other backstage and whatnot. But in any accord, yeah, good to see Dustin Poirier back in the win column.
Very, very good. So before we get to the main event, let's talk about Mr. Ortiz versus Nikolai. Or however you say his last name.
Yes.
So they are flyweights who move very fast. This was a very in and out fight. They were very quick on their feet, and it ended in beautiful fashion with the head kick.
Yeah, I've been watching Dustin Ortiz progress over and over the past couple of years since he's been in the UFC, and it's one of those things that you can't help but get better, not only as a young fighter in the UFC, but a young fighter at the top of your weight class. He's been evolving over and over his fights, like I just said, but I think he's a wrestler base. But yeah, this fight he used a lot of footwork, in and out, switching his stances, and then eventually just finished the fight with a right head kick at the end.
Yeah, he was throwing a lot of head kicks in this fight. And what was interesting about that was he wasn't throwing a lot of leg kicks as well. You would think you'd want to change up and down just to confuse your opponent, but he did keep on throwing that right head kick, and he finally did land. But he didn't land clean. It still hit his glove, but it hit him so hard that it knocked that dude on his butt.
Exactly, and I think that this shows the importance of, especially in MMA, you can't get away with half-ass covers. But the cover that he had a proper, what they call a telephone guard, where they actually hold the ear, but he only had that. As he was backing away, actually Dustin Ortiz did a beautiful job of hand trapping that to the side over here, so he wasn't able to properly reinforce that telephone guard, and the foot ended up, a lot of times it just kind of wraps around,
Yeah.
That's all she wrote.
And when he fell to the floor, he just dinged his head multiple times, like dong 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 dong, and he was done. But the funny part with the stoppage is he was actually being like, "Why'd you stop it?" But it's like, bro, like, I know a lot of times this happens in fights. The fighters will argue about it, but it's like, your head was getting ping pong back and forth between his fists. You're done. I mean, you want him to keep on going and make you unconscious, or you want to just slightly get hurt and be able to fight, in a few other months.
Yeah, no, he was definitely out. There was a second. I'm a big fan of of the refs being able to get in there and do their job without at the discretion of how tough the athlete is. Sometimes athletes are too tough for their own good, and it's not the ref's job to allow that to be ongoing. It's about the safety of the fighter. No matter if it's 1 versus 2 more punches away from the guy being able to recover. The guy's stunned and he's about to be out. He's about to be out. So that's where the referee needs to step in regardless, and that's where that guy was. And it's one of those things. The guy woke up and he was about to go for a heel hook, so you kind of feel for the guy, and he almost had it, to be honest. But safety first.
Yeah. So before we get to the other main event cards, I just want to talk about a fight that happened in the prelims. One of the fighters I do follow, Randa Marcos. She was fighting Amanda Nunez's girlfriend. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. But watching that fight, even the audience at the very end when they announced the unanimous decision, you heard a lot of boos in the crowd. And I do agree, if there was a decision made, it should at least been split. But I think Ronda, in my opinion, should have won that fight. She, there was like the second round where the other girl, was winning, but the first round she had top control the whole time. She was controlling her. The third round, I feel like she was doing enough to win that round. So, I mean, not only was she confused by the decision win, but everybody in the audience was like, what was that? So decisions, it's hard to say with judges and what they're looking for.
Although I didn't really watch that fight, to be completely honest, I did see some of the first round, and she did look like she was controlling the better part of it on the ground, at least. And I don't think the girl that she was fighting was really doing anything on the feet to really mitigate that in terms of the judges' eyes. But I think this is going to be an ongoing topic throughout our podcast, is just the discrepancies of, as far as judging goes in MMA. It's really subjective, and there's too many different positions that these judges just simply don't know about. On the surface, these judges don't just know, takedown, punch landing, punch not landing, takedown defended, submission defended. Mm-hmm. Very simple, but really MMA has a lot more intricacies in the sport that really show where some of the setups and things like that really occur. Like, I know some people might think that maybe perhaps Joanna may have lost a couple rounds because she was being pressured into the cage, but if you're being pressured into the cage and you're the one being, defending off all the takedowns, and all the person doing is just wearing themselves off and taking knees to the stomach and things like that while your back's against the cage, Yeah, so I feel like if your back's against the cage and you're defending off the wrestler character in MMA, and you're just making them tired out, and you're the one landing all the strikes, I think you win that position. But a lot of times, all judges see is that, oh, this person's back is against the cage. They don't really see how the hips are turning. They don't see the beautiful parts and all those little intricacies, and that's where a lot of people get fucked in decisions, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being screwed in positions, let's go to the Mercer versus Hernandez fight. So Mercer goes for a jumping, what looked like a guillotine or maybe a triangle. We don't really know what he was going for. He was going for something, and he slipped. Hernandez got into his guard, and they just get into starting all over again on the ground, and not even like a minute into it, maybe 30 seconds at the most, the ref stands him up.
Yeah, and there was 2 fights. I'm trying to remember. It was Mercer versus Hernandez, and it was it was the main event, but that was a different story. Anyhow, we'll get to that. The Mercer versus Hernandez, yeah, that was an interesting one. Granted, Mercer did have a body triangle in the guard, which was preventing the guy from really posturing up. I feel like he got to that position so quickly that the guy was not given a chance to even work on the top. And that's the thing about being in top and in guard. I mean, you can land some effective strikes. Some of GSP's most beautiful moments came from inside the guard, working the can opener and landing elbows. The guy wasn't even given a chance to really even strike, to posture, transition, break the lock. I'm really a component of no stand-ups at all, actually. I believe that once you get to the ground, that's a whole separate martial art, and it needs to continue from there.
See, I want to inject there. I disagree to a point. I think if the top fighter is stalling and not doing much, and or if the person on the bottom is doing a good job at controlling him and holding him, where there's literally nothing going down, and it just looks like they're just sitting on each other, and it's like that for more than 30 seconds, and literally not even punches are being thrown, I think they should be stood up.
I agree with that, but then you look at like a fight like Francis Ngannou versus the Black Beast. What's his name?
Derek Lewis.
The Black Beast.
Big
Lewis.
sexy.
Yeah.
Where's
you look
ass?
at a match like that, they're not doing anything really on the feet. Granted, I don't want to take away from Derek Lewis. He was throwing some high kicks and all sorts.
That boy can throw some high kicks.
Yes, he can. But like they were stalling. There was only like, I think it was like the second round. There was only like 6 punches thrown.
That whole fight, there's like 30 punches thrown.
Why? How about this? How about you guys do a sit down? You don't. They do
sit down fight.
Yeah, they
fight
do.
on your knees.
Well, I'm saying like they do stand ups. Why don't they ever sit them down?
Because fans like to see the stand up fight.
Well,
a lot of the fans don't like to see.
I understand
the
it's
ground
about
fight.
what the fans like to see, but it's also about the sport, right?
Yeah,
If you guys are even here, put them in a different dimension of the sport. If you guys are even here, put them in another dimension of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my argument. Is that they don't do it the other way around, so why would you do it? It should just be a continuous fight for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Let alone 3 5-minute rounds. Is a little bit arbitrary of a thought anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just do 15 minutes nonstop? If that's the case, I understand it's a sport and we want to implement rests and things like that. But if you really think about it, in terms of martial arts, it really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about martial arts wise, and or even just a street fight, because realistically, that's what the UFC is. It's a sanctioned street fight. I mean, obviously, it's not Pride rules where you can soccer kick people in the head or knee people in the head while they're on the floor, but it's really an all-out, I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to see if my martial arts can beat you. So, realistically, in a street fight, no one's going to pick you up off the ground if you're fighting some dude unless you're, in a group of friends.
Sure.
But, I mean, a fight is a fight. If the fight ends up on the ground, it should stay there until someone can get up or finish.
That's my train of thought, too, is like you keep the sport as pure as possible. We already take certain weapons out of the sport.
Yeah.
Why soften it up?
Let's bring gladiators back.
Yeah. Why soften the sport even more by, taking away somebody's weapon,
Mm-hmm.
I think there was like a weird incident way back when where they stood Roy Nelson up and he had like a crucifix or something like that. It was something really ridiculous. But yeah, that's my thoughts on standing up fighters and things like that. I thought that was a little ridiculous. I'm tired of seeing that.
Well, I think there's a lot of rules that should be changed in the UFC. There's a lot of like Pride. There's a lot of rules in Pride I agree with. I like that they can do that. And some people were like, oh, well, that will concuss a fighter more, or that will damage a fighter more. Well, then don't get hit by it. This is a fight. I mean, like, if I have you, knocked out, or if not knocked out, but if I have you rocked, if I'm putting the pace on you and you go into a certain position where I can knee the fuck out of your head, I'm going to do that. And I don't care if your hands are on the ground, if you're going down or what. Regardless of your position, if I can deliver a attack, if we're going to put it in a video game sense, I'm going to use a power attack over a light attack. So if I'm in the option to use my power attack that can increase damage, more damage than another attack, why not use that one? Absolutely. And in this case, a knee is a lot stronger than a punch in certain situations. Like if he's on the ground, I'm like, knock him with the knee. That's a lot more powerful than me punching him.
Right, for sure. And I think a lot of people they will tend to argue that argument all day is like, why are we taking away 12 to 6 elbows? It's their job to defend that. But meanwhile, you guys are in favor of standing up fighters. Well, if there's a wrestler like Ben Askren that's gonna wear you out like a wet blanket it's your job to figure out how to get up or mitigate that. I see those as equal threats, whether it being like a curb stomp and pride versus somebody just laying on top of you for 5 rounds, not throwing a single punch. It's up to you. If I can Ben Askren you, okay, well, what are you doing not to let me Ben Askren you?
Yeah.
Why aren't you kneeing me in the face or something?
Exactly.
To the other extreme.
So, before we get to the main event, let's talk about Aldo versus who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, who the fuck is that guy?
AKA Jeremy Stephens.
I totally forgot about that. Jeremy Stephens, he's been building. Actually, I think that statement alone had gotten Jeremy Stephens more followers than his whole career.
Yeah.
No disrespect intended there, but Jeremy Stephens is a crazy, amazing fighter. I love watching him. Crazy knockout power.
Known for having some heavy ass hands in the featherweight.
Crazy knockout power. Unfortunately, he did not come on top, though. He had a lot of momentum going to this fight. I think he just came over a win over the Korean Superboy. I forget his name.
Doo Ho Choi.
Doo Ho Choi. I'm a huge fan of that guy. To beat that guy is an amazing feat. I think he knocked him out, too. So
yeah.
That is crazy.
Good achievement.
It's a good achievement. But Aldo, he looked a little slow. Just to start breaking down this fight, Aldo looked a little slow starting off, and I feel like the back-to-back losses of Holloway twice and Conor McGregor just getting starched by him really changed the pace of how Aldo wants to start fights.
And his attitude.
And his attitudes a little bit. Aldo was always known as a very fast starter and always known of his gas tank delaying through the rounds. And I don't think that's because, he has very bad gas tank. I think it's just his style. His style is very much all power.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that only worked so well against certain opponents. Like guys like Chad Mendes, who would match that pressure against pressure. They were able to constantly go back and forth the whole time because they kind of had the same rhythm to a certain extent. So yeah, I think Aldo did a good job of switching up his style a little bit. He definitely started a little bit slower. It looked like it was a little bit intentional. In the Aldo versus McGregor fight, it looked like he was so desperate just to connect and just get the fight started that, against a guy like Conor McGregor who's just chomping at the bits, plotting that counter left for,
the most beautiful.
Yeah, that was the left
knockout.
hand heard around the world, right? But I think it was the same type of thing against, I think the blueprint was laid out for how to beat Aldo after that.
I think if Stephens beat Aldo, I personally think Aldo probably would have retired.
Yeah, I could see that definitely happening.
So
or move up a weight.
His attitude was just so Debbie Downer, and he came from being the only featherweight champ to losing to Conor and then losing again, and then he just seemed like he just wasn't there anymore. And you saw like when he won how excited he was. Like he literally started breaking down crying because he won. So you clearly could tell it meant something to him to win this fight.
Absolutely. I mean, you imagine the type of experience it was to be a undefeated featherweight. Well, he had like one loss in like probably what was it, like 10 years or some crazy feat like that. Up until this crazy Irish man climbs his way to the division, mocks you for months on end. Mentally beats you before you get in there, and then starches you in, what was it, like 20 something seconds?
Something like that.
Something crazy like that. And then you lose your title, and then you lose twice to the same man in the same fashion. To come back and really get a finish like that means everything to a guy like that, especially for that kind of style. It lets you gain confidence that your style still works. You can still beat high-level competition in a tremendous fashion, and that you're still at the top of your division, obviously.
I mean, Jeremy, like you said, Aldo came out a little slow. Jeremy didn't come out super fast either, but he still was pushing the pace to him at certain points. He did unload a nice little fury at one point when he caught Aldo against the cage, pushing it back. And first time I watched it, it looked like he landed all those punches, but the second viewing, Aldo slipped a lot of those punches, and also a lot of them landed on his arms and his hand.
That's true.
And, there was a few good connections. The uppercut landed, there was a hook that landed. And, Aldo weathered that storm, and he came right back out, and he was like, okay. And that, I felt like it woke Aldo up, and he was like, all right, let's go. You want to do your little fury? I'm going to come at you. So he came at him hard, and he hit him hard in the liver with that upper hook. Like, it was a downwards hook that just fucked him up, dropping him.
No, it was one of those ones where you could see the fight was still in him, and he was trying to hold it, but it was just like, you just see them cinch up, and like their body literally just can't take it, But that goes back to what I was saying. Like, it literally looked like once he got a little bit of the taste, like, okay, we're in a fight. I got him at the volume that I want him to throw, and then Jose Aldo shines when he's able to blast off those counters. The guy goes pop pop, and he returns with the pop pop himself. That type of rhythm. Mm-hmm. He's really able to capitalize and really land those heavy shots like that left hook to the body. They call that a Dutchie shot. And, what he's been known to do in the past too is he'll throw that right leg kick after it, but he hasn't been, in past fights it's been really surprising. You do see that right low kick land, and he does throw it, but not nearly with the same amount of intention that he used to put upon it. Maybe because guys just expect that now, but
like the Uriah Faber fight where he literally destroyed his leg.
Yeah, exactly. But that's something I've seen that was a little bit odd over the past few fights of him over the years. But
so let's talk about the Joanna Jacek versus Tisha Torres fight.
She's back in the win column for sure. She looked good.
She definitely is.
Tisha Torres is no joke. She's definitely up there with the best in the division.
My problem with her is she's very good. She used to be undefeated, obviously, until she lost. I forgot who her first loss was, too. But my biggest problem was all her wins were by decision. And, regardless of your undefeatedness, no one really likes to watch somebody who only wins by decision. Everybody loves a finisher. And if you can't finish a fight and you're just pointing it out, then you're not going to get a lot of fans that way. Not a lot of people are going to be rooting for you because they're like, oh, your fight's going to go to decision. I'm not going to watch this. As a fan who's been following UFC for years, fighters who just go to decision, I don't really find it interesting. I just want to see the next fight.
Were you not a fan of Joanna, her style?
Joanna, I've never really been a fan of hers either. Really? I mean, I just don't really like, it sounds like an oxymoron, but like her shit talk is kind of annoying to me. I don't know if it's because her accent, it just is not,
I could definitely see that, but I love watching her fight, man. Like, yeah, sure, she hasn't had like the most amount of finishes, but every single time you watch her go against these girls, she literally puts a clinic on and literally just rearranges these girls.
Her Muay Thai is amazing.
Literally like butches these girls. Like, I remember when I first started paying attention to her, she fought what was her name? Juliana Pena? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Jessica Pena. Yeah. I'm so sorry, but yeah, when she faced Jessica Pena, she literally just obliterated her.
Oh yeah, her face was very bloody.
But it goes to show what you say. It was one of those things that she built a reputation of going rounds with these girls, and I think that style not only lets your opponents know that you don't necessarily have like tremendous one punch knockout power, but it also goes to show that when you go those long bouts of battles that Joanna has been going through for what was it like how many fights did she win, like 8 in a row, 10 in a row?
I think it was 11.
11 fights in a row.
Yeah.
It shows a few things. It shows that, for one, Joanna has the gas tank to be able to go that many rounds, so her opponents have to prepare for that. And it also shows that, maybe she doesn't have the most crazy knockout power in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But it also means that she has a lot of wear and tear on her. And I think that wear and tear not only came from the MMA bouts that she's had,
but all those Muay Thai fights.
All those Muay Thai fights. Man, 6-time world champion. Mm-hmm. I think she fought some crazy number, like probably hundreds. Yeah. But something ridiculous.
But the difference between her and Tisha is she at least finishes fights. She decimated the first strawweight champion.
Yeah.
What's her name? My brain's not working right now.
The first, Carla Esparza.
Yeah. she decimated Carla Esparza, like TKO'd her, and almost all of her other fights were either by decision or TKO, but at least the decisions she was wrecking them, like putting a clinic, like you said, on them and making them just look like they got the shit kicked out of them. So that's what I like about her. Tisha Torres fights, on the other hand, she's just pointing them or wrestling them, or just her opponents don't look like they've been beat badly at the end of her fights. Not all. I mean, some of them do.
For
but,
Tisha Torres?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's a well, no, I think she has like a taekwondo style, or I don't know what her. I know she does. She has been doing a lot of grappling style game plans in her past fights.
And with this fight, which I am on the fence with the decision. I think it should have been a split decision win for Joanna, but I think Tisha. I'm not saying Joanna didn't win. It was close. But what I think is Tisha should have pushed the pace. She's a lot shorter fighter. She a lot more stockier than, Joanna. She should have pushed the pace, gone in her face, thrown those, fast, bop, 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 and then thrown some heavy-handed. She should have just went in there heavy-handed and looking to knock her. Not knock her out, because I don't think she could have. Yeah. But to hurt her badly. I mean, Rose caught Joanna, and she's not as big as Tisha. Tisha looks, pretty yoked for her size. So if she pushed the pace, I think, she could have done damage.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that there should be more pressure with her striking. I don't know why. I mean, there's things that you got to watch out for strike. Pressure and forehand striking against Joanna. She kind of throws that front push kick to the face quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But I think Joanna did a great job of managing her distance and just really managing the overall pace and time of the fight. She really selected, and you can almost see like when she would throw the short bursts of actually just sitting in the pocket and actually basically banging it with with Tisha Torres. Like you could see in like the 30-second clap mark in a few of the rounds that they would hear and Tisha would really start throwing more volume, and Joanna would sit there and actually match her volume. And I think that this shows the evolution of Joanna as a fighter, just because the simple fact of there's been a few fights in a row where she's gotten hit pretty hard, and like you can see that she's gotten rocked a little bit. Mm-hmm. Even in the Carolina, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce her last name, but in that fight she got caught with a right hand that stunned her, and I think that Joanna is starting to realize that maybe that her chin has been tested quite a bit,
and she's not invincible.
Yeah, she's not invincible, but it's also she's been even in fights where she's won very decisively, she's taken a lot of damage physically. You watch over all of her fights, she's always cut up, things like that. I think she's trying to fight in a way now that really conserves her longevity as a fighter. Mm-hmm. And you got to respect that, because it takes an art to really be able to execute game plans like that. And that's why I thought she actually did a beautiful job on Saturday.
Yeah,
she really managed the distance right, really threw different varieties in those distances. And when you really throw variety in your distance, it really opens up different shot selections and things like that.
Definitely.
And she did a good job of really wearing Tisha Torres out against the cage. I feel like Muay Thai clinch is something that really isn't talked about a whole lot in terms of wrestling, combating wrestling takedowns. Mm-hmm. I feel like Muay Thai clinch is king for cage work.
Yeah. She definitely used the clinch very well in this fight. I think but I really would have loved to see at least once in this fight to see Tisha get a takedown and actually be on her for just a few seconds to see what she could have done. Because we see her go for takedowns quite a bit in this fight, pushing her against the cage, trying to go for a double leg, trying to go for a single leg. She does a really impressive single leg in the third round, which she doesn't, get a finish, unfortunately. But I just really want to see how that fight would have changed. Would she have been more dominant on top of her? Would she, her jiu-jitsu been better than hers? Or not. It could have, completely been flip side. Who knows? But I would have liked to see that aspect of her actually being able to get the takedown. Someone who was really good at getting the takedown, one of my favorite strawweight fighters, Claudia Gadelha. She whooped Joanna on the ground. I personally think Claudia won some of those fights. They fought twice. One is, up in arms of who won. But one of the fights, I personally think Claudia won. And she dominated the ground game in that fight. And she took her down multiple times. And I think if someone can do that and be good at stand-up with her, they'll have no problem beating her.
I agree with that 100%. The only flip side of that coin is that I just think Joanna's wrestling defense is so damn good. After that first Claudia Gadelha fight, she really evolved there too. I mean, you look at the second bout against each other. Joanna was able to really defend those takedowns, even once she was getting taken down with the double legs against the cage and things like that. She was able to pop right back up. Yeah, I feel like that first Claudia Gadelha fight, she evolved as a fighter there too, and she was able to develop that wrestling defense that much more, and you could see that in the second bout that they faced each other. And I just don't see anybody really even being able to take her down at all. Just in that division, I don't see anybody having the stand up to be able to get inside the takedown distance, efficient enough without taking the damage from the clinch. And I just think that Joanna's style is a huge catalyst to all the other girls' styles in that division, and especially against the girls that are considered good at what Joanna is considered weak at, if that makes any sense.
Do you think she should get another title shot after this fight?
Ooh, who is at the top of the division?
Well, she's number 1 right now.
She's number 1? It's kind of hard not to
Claudia,
argue.
I think, is number 2.
Who's going to get the title shot? Claudia?
These are good questions. I don't know who... Is someone fighting Rose right now?
That's one person I haven't heard about to fight Rose.
No. Who I did hear, I mean, this is off topic of this fight card, but the strawweight, or not strawweight, what's the weight division above them? Bantam, strawweight?
No,
flyweight.
Flyweight.
The flyweight division. That fight is going to be very, very interesting. Let me get that up on my phone real quick so I can see who they are. That is
flyweight. I don't know. Oh, it's the Are you asking who the flyweight champ is?
No, I know who it is.
I'm trying. I don't know her name, but I know she's out in New Mexico.
Nico Montana versus Valerie. Last name I'm not going to pronounce. Anyway, my problem with that fight card, or with that fight at least, is we have a flyweight who is a flyweight. She could potentially fight at strawweight versus a girl who's coming down from bantamweight. This girl went toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes.
Really?
And went to decision, 5 rounds.
Oh, Valerie Laturnov?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know she was going down.
Yeah,
oh,
she's going down.
Yikes.
I don't think this is going to be a good matchup for Nico. Like, she just won her belt from the Ultimate Fighter. I'm scared, honestly, for her. Because Amanda Nunes is a beast. And if Valerie can hold her own for 5 rounds with her, I don't think she's going to have a problem with Nico.
Styles always make matchups, but, that's a huge size advantage, especially for that weight division. You're talking about somebody who's competing against girls that would probably walk around 150s, cut down to 130s, against a girl who's probably walking around 140.
If that. Maybe 130.
130, yeah. The smaller the weight class, the less they cut. So, I don't know.
That's going to be
that's an interesting one. To be honest, I haven't really paid attention to the female flyweight division. I know it's horrible to say.
Well, they also it's also a new division, just like the featherweight, which is kind of non-existent right now. If you look at the UFC website under ranking, they have strawweight, they have flyweight, and they have bantamweight, but featherweight is kind of not there. I mean,
how many people did it have in the rankings?
Well, technically, Holly is in the rankings. Obviously, Cyborg, Megan Anderson. I don't know if Durandamine is in there still, but that's like 4. but I don't know if they have any other fighters, so I don't think they are wasting their time trying to put a top 10 or top 15 on their website. But the strawweight division, it's really brand new, honestly, or not strawweight. The flyweight division is brand new, realistically, to the UFC. We haven't really seen a lot of those fighters even fighting. So, I mean, only time will tell who really stands out in that fight. One of the fighters I am looking forward to see in that weight division is the Happy Warrior. She used to not be that good of a fighter, honestly. No shade to her, but I'm still a fan of her.
Was she the one on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yes.
The jiu-jitsu lady?
Yes.
Oh, I know who she is.
I love her.
Yeah.
She's super. She seems like the nicest
She's an
girl
interesting
ever.
character.
She did fight in Invicta. She had a pretty bad losing streak, and it was like on and off. But her record just wasn't the greatest if you look at it. But she improved. She left Invicta and got a bunch of wins and got really good. Her striking improved immensely from the first time I watched her fight to now.
Really?
It improved significantly. She stood up with people in the Ultimate Fighter who were like known for having heavy hands. And she's like, okay, let's go. Let's bang. And I'm like, wow, okay, your stand-up is actually really good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her fight in that division. She did lose to Nico. I forgot how she lost. I think it was by decision. But I'm just really interested to see what she can do and just in general the division itself.
You know, women's MMA is so young. I mean, you think about just like, what was it, like 6 years ago, there wasn't even a females division at all. 0 weight classes. Imagine what we'll be in another 6 years. We'll probably have some female Brock Lesnar.
I don't think we'll ever see a heavyweight division.
You don't think so?
No.
Well,
Invicta doesn't even have a heavyweight.
I think there'll be a heavyweight, but I think that the weight will be maybe like 190s or 180s. Because there's plenty of women out there that would love to do it, and you know, there's just not the opportunity for them.
Yeah, I mean, like, the highest weight I've seen is, like, bigger companies is featherweight. I mean, there are catchweights. I forgot what her name is. She's a big Brazilian girl. But she fought at catchweight. She was, like, 200-something pounds versus a girl who was, like, 190 or 185 or something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
But, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. She's a big girl. And, yeah. But, I mean, that fight was pretty crazy. It was in Japan. So, it was, like, one of those fights.
The genetically modified organisms out there.
Yeah, but, I don't know. I mean, I don't. There is a possibility. I mean, I would like to see what, you know, because look at female basketball players. They're very large.
That's exactly what I was
They weigh
gonna
a lot
say.
of, you know, they weigh more than the featherweights. You know what I mean? And who says there's not a lot of girls that height and that weight who want to fight, who are good athletes? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's just the opportunity that MMA proposes to some of the freakiest athletes out there. You mean
NFL players? Or
Yeah,
whatever.
you know, all these NFL players that, you know, would want to pursue a professional sports league like NBA or NFL. They're just really genetic gifted. You know, we haven't necessarily seen the top of the totem pole of those level of athletes in MMA quite yet. We're starting to get it, like guys like Francis Ngannou, you know, and then maybe in another lifetime, maybe that guy could have been a starting, you know, defensive end for New England Patriots or something like that. But, you know, we're seeing that guy obliterate people's chins off into Mars instead in MMA now. But, you know, I think the same thing applies to women. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, opportunity creates, you know, capitalization. And, you know, that opportunity just hasn't been presented in MMA yet for heavier girls.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at our gym. We don't have, you know, many female fighters, or not female fighters, but females in general joining our gym. Like, we have a handful at most. Like, I don't even think we have more than 10.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, they have to invite their girlfriends, and their girlfriends have to invite their girlfriends, and, you know, they have to love what they do. And, you know, our girls at our gym seem to love jiu-jitsu and all that fun stuff. And from the people I follow on Instagram who are fighters, you know, they seem like they have, you know, the small little clique of girls at their gyms. But, you know, you don't really see, like, gyms overflowing with girls. But also, like you said earlier, the girl MMA is pretty brand new compared to the men.
It's pretty brand new, and, you know, I just thought about this, too. I mean, why would you want to get punched in the face for a living if you're 6'5" and you could make 6K a year playing basketball. You know, I mean, there's that factor too. You know, and I think that's why so many people try to pursue football as opposed to something like fighting. So.
I don't think anybody wants to get punched in the face, regardless.
I think
fighters or not.
I think even if you ask like the John Jones, I don't think he wants to get punched in the face either. So, and anyhow, let's move on to our main event. Beautiful performance by the one who shines so bright, Dustin Diamond Poirier. So,
versus
what were your
Eddie.
thoughts? What were your thoughts on this one?
A lot like the first fight. I think if you layered over both fights, very similar.
I couldn't agree more.
Like they were showing replays from the first fight. I'm like, am I watching the
yeah,
the second
exactly.
fight?
The outside leg kick from the southpaw stance. I was
literally Dustin backs Eddie up against the cage in the first fight and tees off on him exactly like the second fight. Like I'm like, wait, which fight is this? Oh, yeah. It's the first fight. Never mind. And the same thing happened in the second fight, in the second round, when he teed off on him. It's virtually identical.
Yeah. You know, I mean, this card was really just, it was the card for, you know, lightweights, you know, from, you know, bottom up-and-comers into the rankings, you know, for, like, the Hernandez versus, you know, what was the guy's name fight? The
very beginning one?
Yeah, what was that one? Hernandez versus
Powell?
Yeah, that fight, those guys were low, you know, lower in the rankings. But anyhow, this was the lightweight card, and this fight was really important because I believe the winner of this fight will fight Conor versus the winner of Conor versus Habib.
So they'll fight Conor.
Yeah. So we'll see. That will be interesting.
Listen here, the eagle is gonna fall. Is what's gonna happen.
We'll see.
I love Khabib. All right, like Khabib is awesome. He's Russian. He does not care who you are. But I don't like. That's a whole big thing of if, ands, or buts.
We could probably have a podcast just for that fight, and believe me, we probably will. But
the shorthand of the stick, Conor's gonna win.
I agree with you actually. You know, for a lot of different reasons, but you know, Khabib is one of those guys that you just don't really know. Khabib is just one of those guys you just don't really know until you see him fight him, because the way that guy just is able to get a hold of some guys is just ridiculous. I mean,
send me location.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that location is going to be in Las Vegas, but anyway.
Nice segue.
Yeah. Anyway, Dustin Poirier, you know,
a lot of good combos.
Finishes Eddie Alvarez in fantastic fashion. Looked amazing. You know, just a little bit of details I would like to point out. He did that lead outside low kick that he threw in the first fight quite a bit. I felt like he did a much better job in this fight of going in and out.
You're talking about Dustin, right?
Yeah, Dustin.
Yeah, he landed that one kick that tripped up Eddie, which almost made him slip.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that low inside kick is very awkward to throw from southpaw.
Mm-hmm.
Or in that, I should just say the open exchange, you know, southpaw versus orthodox.
It's a fun kick to throw, though.
It is a fun kick, and he was doing a good job of setting it up with his what would be his left hand. So you go left hand lead outside low kick. That in and out motion, he was doing a good job of managing that distance. I felt like he was really comfortable whenever Eddie would pressure him. In fact, he pulled guard, pulled a guillotine attempt from standing,
which was very ballsy the second time. The first time, I thought he was really close to getting it. I mean, it looked like he had it.
Yeah, that was ballsy.
And I was really worried once he started struggling that he was going to muscle his arms out. And I was like, fuck, he's going to be done.
Yeah, and then from there, pretty much what happened is Eddie actually got a mounted position.
Weird cranking.
Well, it was a mount while Dustin's back was against the cage, you know. Yeah, so, you know, Eddie Alvarez got to a position in the mount where Dustin's back was against the cage. Basically, he was seated. But then they were stood up shortly after because Eddie Alvarez threw another illegal move in a fight against each other.
12-6.
A 12-6 elbow on the collarbone.
And he was also grabbing the fence.
Oh, was he grabbing the fence?
Yeah, he was doing this and was like, hi-ya!
I didn't catch that part, but I didn't realize that the 12.
You didn't hear Mark Gardner. He's like, get your hands off the fence. They're an illegal elbow.
Everything sounds better in a British accent.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Pretty much.
Yeah, but at 6 o'clock, I thought that only applied to the head. So
It applies pretty much anywhere.
it applies everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was something that I learned that I never really thought about before, and I thought that was interesting that he tried to throw that. And you kind of felt bad for the guy because, let's say that he was able to suck Dustin's hips back and actually maintain that mount position
That
against
weird
the
ass
cage.
mount he had.
And maintain the mount position against the cage. That was probably the position that he would want that whole fight.
Pretty much.
So, but anyway, they stood him back up. Dustin was able to land some nice combinations. Really hurt Eddie. Got him against the cage shortly. After a few flurries of combinations, knees, everything under the kitchen sink. Landed a nice lead elbow. Dropped Eddie. And now is headed to a
And the
title.
lights go out in Georgia.
Yeah. Now he's headed to a title shot.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I mean, I think this is a well-deserved title shot. I mean, those combos were really great. Just not even just the ones that finished the fight. Throughout the fight, his combos, like you said, the leg kicks, and especially the ending. It was just so much heart for Dustin, and he was really fighting for this fight. Like, you heard him, or you saw him calling him out multiple times on Twitter. He's like, when are we going to run this back? When are we going to run this back? He wanted that fight again because he knew he bested Alvarez. He knew he won that first fight. So I'm really glad he got this fight. I'm really glad he got that TKO win. And I'm really pumped to see him fight whoever is going to be champion.
Yeah, and you really gotta respect the guy because he's one of those guys that was able to climb all the way through the rankings, not by talking shit, or he's really not that highly marketed as an athlete. I mean, granted, his market is high as any other high ranked athlete, but definitely not like a Conor McGregor was when he was on his rise. But after that loss to Conor McGregor, that dude moved up a weight division and worked himself all the way to the top of the division.
It's because he grew hair.
It's because he got a good haircut and he's no longer showing that pea head.
Yeah. Well, with his bald head, he looked like a douchebag. With his hair, it looks like a completely different dude. He seems really chill, nice, and you want to root for the guy.
So you got to convince Anthony with your hair. If you
don't have a pea head.
If you want to be rooted for on this podcast, you better have a good haircut. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance.
Or be a hot chick fighter.
Oh, that always works.
That helps.
But yeah, I mean, he's gonna fight for that lightweight title. Congrats to Dustin Poirier.
I agree. So let's talk about us. Since this is our first episode.
Yes.
We are not. Sorry, you go.
Yeah. First off, let's just say that if you're watching this right now, we want to say thank you. First and foremost, we appreciate it. We're gonna clean this podcast up as we go. This is our first podcast, as we mentioned a million gazillion times, but we're gonna get this thing chopped up. It's not gonna be a stop and go as you're gonna see, but just gonna talk a little bit about ourselves.
Me and Nation, we both train at the same gym. We train at Cobra Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Cobra BJJ, Plano, Texas.
Os.
Underneath Professor Eddie Ricardo and
Muay Thai teacher Ty Davis.
Our Muay Thai teacher Ty Davis, which is how we actually met. Ty teaches the Muay Thai class at Cobra BJJ, and
I came in.
Ty. Anthony came in there. I think he just wanted to get some striking, right? Did you start off with the striking class?
Yeah, well, I mainly wanted to do the Muay Thai class. I was interested in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I was focused more on Muay Thai because I love Muay Thai as a fighting style.
Right. Why didn't you ever go to you didn't just go to another strictly Muay Thai school? Why did you choose Cobra?
Well, funny enough, I was driving past Cobra to deliver tires for my job, and I saw Cobra, and I was like, it reminded me of Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. So I was like, let me stop by, check this out. And it said Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm like, cool, it's close by to my house. Let me check it out. So I went with that school. I met you guys, and that's where the story starts.
He fell in love.
I fell in love.
Love at first sight. But, Anthony's been doing a good job. He's been there for about a year and a half now.
Year and a half, yeah.
Man, you've progressed a lot in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So
what's your background?
Yeah.
What do you know style-wise?
A little bit about myself. I'm 21. I started off as a high school wrestler. I wrestled in Texas from my sophomore year to my senior year. after wrestling. I had the opportunity to go wrestle in college. Decided not to. I'm an academic kid. I study at the University of North Texas, and my degree is in kinesiology. Hopefully be a sports psychologist one day for combat athletes and athletes of all jack of trades, and maybe just regular people too. But we can talk about that more as these podcasts expand. But yeah, so after I was done wrestling in high school, I just still had this competitive itch to, go out there and keep getting better. Wrestling was my first experience ever really working for a goal, getting physically fit, being confident, and there was a little bit of ego attachment there. So once I lost that, I really didn't have anything to make myself better. I mean, I was going to school, I was working, but nothing really made me feel confident in myself as much as being attached to a sport. So what I had always loved was watching martial arts. My first love was MMA, and that's how I actually got started into wrestling, because I knew a lot of MMA fighters are wrestlers. I always loved watching Frankie Edgar compete and hearing about how good he was as a wrestler. But after that, I joined a Muay Thai school in Plano, Texas, Saxon Janjira Muay Thai. And I was there for a few years before I met my buddy Ty there, who was one of Saxon's older senior students a while back. And I was really needing more jiu-jitsu because I had a couple amateur fights. So that's where I stepped over into Cobra, and I met Eddie Ricardo, and I fell in love with his teaching style and his philosophies for learning and life in general. And since then, I've been working with Ty on my stand-up, so I still go over to Saxon's Muay Thai to get some refinement in. Every time you go over there, you learn so much. So
you've had, before you went to Cobra, how many amateur fights did you have?
I had 2 amateur fights before I transferred.
And
to
both
Cobra.
by TKO?
Both by TKO. As of right now, I'm 2-0 as a pro. I just won my first Bellator fight a couple weeks ago. Yes, applause. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he heel hooked the dude. It was pretty legit. Under 2 minutes.
Yes,
it was
a
very
minute and a half
smooth.
into the first round. All respect to my opponent, but it was a great experience. I'm glad I got to go to that level of prestige of an event and really perform at my highest ability and keep learning from it. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
A little bit about me. As we've stated, I've been doing this for about a year and a half. What that is Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Background: I wrestled a little bit in high school, freshman year. I stopped due to personal reasons. I also was taught wrestling by my father, who also wrestled. I was also taught boxing. Then I've been a MMA fan and just martial arts fan in general for years, whether it be martial arts movies. That's why I love Muay Thai, is because the Protector, Tony Jaa, is a fucking badass. That dude is a Muay Thai genius in movies. I mean, he knows how to fight in real life too, which is awesome. But yeah, that's what got me into Muay Thai. I love Kung Fu. I love literally every form, for the most part, of martial arts. So learning the 8 deadly limbs of Muay Thai is awesome, and that's why I came to Cobra, and I fell in love with it. Ty is an awesome coach, and I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Eddie is an amazing coach, and I met some really awesome guys. I met Nation. And, I love it. And, I'm hopefully in the future working forward to getting my first amateur MMA fight. So that should be fun. Also, I'm a big filmmaker. I'm actually working on a short film, a Punisher fan film, which Nation is starring in.
Woohoo!
His character is not to be said
yet. Stay peep for that.
Yeah. But I'm directing it. Our Muay Thai coach Ty is playing the Punisher himself, and other than that,
he's a good Punisher.
He does a pretty good. For someone who hasn't acted, he does a pretty good job, I would say. I don't have to give him much direction, and he brings on the intensity like that, which is really funny because he's like, ha ha ha, serious face, here we go. I'm like, oh, Ties on. So that's pretty
awesome.
great. Other than filmmaking, I'm very artistic. I really
You're
like,
autistic?
not autistic. Artistic. I like drawing. I'm a very big Funko Pop collector. Love collecting that. Also a video gamer. All that fun shizzle to nizzle.
Yeah, we have a lot of different interests. Me and Anthony, we get along really well just because of the variety of conversations that we have. So, sometimes these podcasts, we're going to try to be as consistent as possible. So, sometimes we're just not going to want to talk about fights. Sorry, fight fans.
We're going to be wanting to talk about Dragon Ball Super or anything else.
Anthony's girlfriends or whatever.
Girlfriends.
whatever is going on in paradise over there. We'll have some fun with this. If you're really interested in just a well-rounded podcast, we have a bunch of cool guests that we're gonna bring on eventually. But that's a little bit about us.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, the next podcast, we will be talking more about fighting, more so what we don't agree upon rule-wise, whether it be the replay system and how that is implemented, and we might talk about a movie that's coming out, or just whatever we are in the mood to talk about.
Yeah, we do have a lot of fights coming up, so although I did say that we're going to do some podcasts where we're not talking about that, we do have Dillashaw versus Garbrandt 2, along with Mighty Mouse and Cejudo 2 on that same card. I believe that's this upcoming weekend. Maybe we'll do like a fight companion or something like that. You're interested in doing something like that potentially?
Oh, definitely.
Maybe we order the fight here. Or something.
So before we wrap this up, we're gonna go through quickly our predictions.
Okay.
Because
we'll
we're
keep
gonna
it short.
we're gonna be like Mystic Mac here. We're gonna predict some fights.
Just
okay.
say the name.
Cub Swanson versus Renato something. I don't even know his name. We're gonna go with Cub because
Hanato.
I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I'm not gonna butcher his name.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Hanato. He's a killer. He's good.
I'm gonna go with Cub because Cub's my boy.
Okay.
He's legit. All right. Demetrius Johnson versus Henry.
DJ.
All day. Mighty Mouse.
Next.
He's the boy. He's the great. All right. TJ versus Cody.
TJ. Actually,
I'm gonna go with TJ.
I'm gonna go with Garbrandt.
TJ already knocked him out once, and I think TJ knows what it takes to stop him again. And Cody is a douchebag. Cody, sorry, Cody, but you just your persona on the media is not forte for my liking. So
Garbrandt, if you ever meet Anthony,
I mean, we are both bantamweights, so maybe we'll
please
meet
have mercy on him. Please have mercy on him. But I'm gonna go with Garbrandt on that. I think that Garbrandt almost finished TJ quickly, but I have my reasons.
All right, we'll see. We will see whenever that fight card comes out. Apparently, my game will open up. Anyway.
Okay, that's it from us, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to clean this up as much as possible in future podcasts. Stay patient with us.
Thanks for joining us in the Cobra Den.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Os.
Oui.